So one of the surfaces that I absolutely love that takes me back to my childhood is shrink plastic. I'm always amazed that this plastic itself, once it's die cut, will shrink down to something so minuscule. Well, not minuscule where you can't see it, but teeny tiny, and I love things, all things tiny. So you get 10 sheets in a pack. It's also something that you can rubber stamp on or paint on, or you can actually ink on with a permanent pen, write somebody's name, a message, a quote, but rubber stamping something onto the dry side first. So there's a shiny side, and I call it the dry side, or the matte side. Stamp that on, write it on. If you do some type of ink, do a lighter shade, because once you heat it up, it'll shrink down and the ink color gets actually a lot more concentrated. So that's just a rule of thumb. Do the stamping, the inking, or whatever you're going to be doing on the matte side. So you get 10 in a pack. I'm cut mine down to size so it will go through my Big Shot machine. This is the regular Big Shot 6-inch opening. And you can cut our Thinlits with it, but it has to be a framelit. It can't have any intricate die. So not a regular Thinlit, but the chemical etch blade that's a Thinlit or a Bigz. Now this is our Bigz doily, and I'm going to make sure the shrink plastic is completely covering the entire area where the blade is. So since this is just a shape, I'm not going to be inking it at all. Doesn't matter to me, and it's a shape that's either side is the right side because it's a doily. So this is an intricate Bigz die, but since it's big, it's not too intricate where it's not going to shrink down, and you will still be able to see the actual design. So a cutting pad sandwich on the bottom and one on the top. I'm going to run it through. I'm going to run it through one more time just because the doily has lots of little openings. And it's a Bigz die, so this is a steel rule blade, and it'll cut through the entire area. And you've got those little pieces that might not have popped out, so I'm going to pop those out myself. Leave my little trail of confetti here of popped out pieces. You want to make sure you get them all out, because when it shrinks down, it'll show all the detail. So the detail is beautiful on its own like this. You move this off to the side because I'm done with my machine. Now I have my shrink plastic accessory set. Now this has a silicone mat. It has this mesh screen, and it also has this paddle. Now the paddle helps you make sure it doesn't curl up onto itself. Now with our shrink plastic, what I love about it is when it does curl up, you keep heating it and it'll slowly make its way back down to its original shape, but not the original size, hence the word shrink. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on there. When it starts to curl, if I'm not comfortable about how it's looking, I'm going to lay this down on here. Now you'll see that this has a flat edge and this has the rounded edge. If I went like this, it'll hold it down there, but if your piece that you die cut is larger, this part will lift up. It won't move around, but I just like to make sure that I can read the word Sizzix because it's not upside down, and the flat edge of the paddle handle is against the flat edge of my work surface. So starting out, I'm going to heat it up, and as it curls around, I can just pin it down with my paddle here, and then just to make sure it stays flat, that's when I would go ahead and add this to it, if I want to. You don't always have to use the screen. Depends on what you're cutting. And you just want to move it around. You don't want to have it concentrated on the same area. You just want it to start getting heated up evenly around it. And since this is such a big piece, it's going to take not too long, but a little bit longer than if it was a smaller spot. So it's curling up a little bit. And as you can see, it's starting to curl up. Now people start to get nervous thinking it's going to stick on itself. That usually doesn't happen, especially if it's something round like this. Maybe if it was something long and skinny like a giraffe, or just something like a long type of a stem or something, it might happen. But then when it gets to a point like this, I like to flip it over so it'll be both sides. It'll start getting evenly heated and shrunk. And just keep moving it around till it gets to be a uniform shape and it's evenly shrunk. And then I like to press it down with the paddle. Do it again one more time. What I love about the shrink plastic is when it does shrink up, it's kind of cool because it thickens up a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and press that down till it cools. And if you remember the size how it started, look how fun that is, how it turns out in the end. The detail is still all there. It's gotten a lot thicker. And you can paint it before or after. So that's using a Bigz die, and you can see with the little intricacy, it's still shrunk perfectly. The detail is still right there. These are used using our flower blossoms from our switchlet dies. I only use the part that is the framelit. And this you can cut, like I said, you can cut the shrink plastic out of a framelit. You just can't use the embossed design. Now, if I wanted this to be embossed, once it's still warm, I could quickly press it onto embossing folder. It won't ruin the folder, and the impression will be a little bit smaller, but you won't be able to run it through the machine like you would normally. But this is just using the individual flowers that I cut from a framelit, and same with the leaves. And then I just took a permanent gold marker, and then I inked the edges. And you could just adhere them to each other, make a piece of jewelry, make a brooch, you can make a napkin ring. I've done that in the past and it turns out beautiful. So all of the little things that you can add using the shrink plastic adds a little embellishment to a card, home decor piece, do a little loop onto a cord and make a little necklace. I love how this turned out. I might do something with that when I get home.